Welcome to part 4 of section 3.3, where we look at Descartes' rule of signs. This is a little bit of a history lesson if anyone's interested, and a history lesson from Mrs. Dalmage means I looked at Wikipedia. Anyway, so this is René Descartes. He was French. He was born a while ago. I don't know his exact date of birth, but it was in the good old days where he could be like a philosopher and a mathematician. He also was a scientist. The cool thing about him is we've talked about him before. I don't really love the word created, but he's responsible for, he slapped his name on the Cartesian coordinate plane, named after Descartes. And it's just the coordinate plane that we all know and love, that good old XY axes there. And with the 4 quadrants. There are other coordinate planes that you will eventually use in trig or calc or higher levels of math. But the main one, that's our boy Descartes. He also, this is kind of interesting, he believed that all humans were born with innate knowledge from God rather than through experience, which would later be challenged by John Locke. So kind of some cool background info on our guy Descartes. Today we're going to take a look at his rule of signs for determining the number of positive and negative zeros, real zeros, in a polynomial. Here is Descartes' rule of signs written out in all its glory. Again, looks more overwhelming than it really is, and going through some examples will definitely help us. So f of x needs to be written out. We call it general form. Basically just needs to be not factored at all, no parentheses, and we need to make sure that all the terms are written in order. So the exponents are descending, going down. We are going to count the number of sign changes in f of x, meaning going from a positive term to a negative term or vice versa. That's a sign change. Then that tells us about the number of positive real zeros. It's either how many sign changes we have or going down by 2, a multiple of 2. Then we need to find f of negative x. We count the number of sign changes there. That tells us the number of negative real zeros or going down by a multiple of 2. Let's take a look at some examples. In this first example, we want to list the possible amount or number of positive and negative real roots for this quartic polynomial. This is a polynomial we've dealt with already. So in order to determine how many positive real zeros or real roots we have, we need to find p. On the previous slide, when we saw what Descartes' rule of signs was, capital P is how many sign changes we have in f of x. So p is the number of sign changes in f of x, the original function. So I'm going to write out f of x again, not changing it at all. It's 2x to the 4th plus 4x cubed minus x squared minus 6x minus 3. If we take a look from term to term, how many times do we change sign? The first term is positive. The second term is positive. There was not a change in sign there. This term is positive and the next term is negative. That is a sign change. Then we go from a negative to a negative, then a negative to a negative. We only have one sign change from positive to negative. So P is 1. Descartes' rule of signs says that the number of positive real zeros is either p or going down from p by a multiple of 2. Well, I can't subtract 2 from 1. I'll get a negative 1, and we can't have a negative number of something. So because, we can't go down, I can't do negative 1, negative 3, I can't keep going down by multiples of 2, the number of positive real zeros is 1. So there's 1 positive real root. Remember, roots and zeros are the same thing. Next, let's find how many negative real zeros we have. In order to find the number of negative real zeros, we need to find n. N is the number of sign changes in f of negative x. I do want to note that I'm writing NO period, that stands for number of. All right, we need to find f of negative x, which is a little more complex. That means plugging in negative x into every single x. So we will have 2 and then negative x to the 4th plus 4 and then negative x to the 3rd minus negative x squared minus 6 times negative x minus 3. Now, when we are taking a negative number to an even power, it's the same as taking the opposite of it, its positive version of that number, to the even power. Meaning it doesn't matter if we square 3 or square negative 3, we're still getting 9. Meaning raising something to the fourth or to the second is not changing the original term. It doesn't matter that it was negative in here. So when we rewrite this first term, it didn't matter that it was f of negative x. It's still just the same thing as if it was 2x to the fourth. The negative didn't change the outcome of that term because we're taking it to an even power. So that first term didn't change. The next term, however, is going to change. Cubing a negative number will give a negative output, or the opposite output as if we put the positive version of the number in, meaning it changes this term to minus 4x cubed. The next term stays as a minus x squared. That term is not changing from its original minus x squared. It doesn't matter that we're squaring this negative. Squaring a negative still gives us the same output as the original function. It's not changing. This, however, this is an x to the first, an odd power. If you think about it, this minus 6 times this minus x changes it to a plus x. It's changing what the original term was. The minus 3 is untouched because there's no x with it. All right, now we need to count how many sign changes we have in our f of negative x function. The first term's positive and the second term is negative. That's our first sign change. This term's negative and then this term's negative. There's no sign change. This term's negative to this positive term. That's a sign change. And positive 6x to minus 3, that's a sign change. So n is 3. That means that the number of negative real zeros could possibly be 3, or subtracting by a multiple of 2, it could also be 3 minus 1, 3 minus 2, which is 1. So we could either have 1 or 3 negative real roots. Let's think about how this works and relates to the fundamental theorem of algebra. As we learned previously, the fundamental theorem of algebra tells us that since this is a degree 4 polynomial, it's quartic, we have 4 total roots. Roots can either be real or imaginary. Imaginary roots need to come in pairs. Well, if all 4 of the roots were real, one of them would definitely be positive, and then 3 of them could be negative. They would all 4 be real then, adding up to 4 total. But if out of those 4 total roots, 2 of them were imaginary, because imaginary roots come in pairs, the other 2 would be real. In that case, one of them is definitely positive, and the other one could be negative. So that's why we have either 1 or 3. So we have definitely 1 positive real root, and we have either 1 or 3 negative real roots. In order to figure out what they are, we're going to learn a process to do this algebraically. You can also use Desmos or your graphing calculator to graph the function and see where you actually have roots. Let's take a look at the graph of this function. We have looked at it before. We can see that we definitely have 1 positive real root. Here it is. It looks like it's at like 1 point, real close, 1.23 maybe. So that's a positive real root. Then if we get real close, we can see that we actually have 2 negatives, but the thing is that this negative root of about -1 here, it occurs twice. Note it has a multiplicity of 2. We hit the x-axis and then it goes back down. So this negative real root here actually occurs twice, so it counts as 2 of the negative real roots because it has multiplicity 2. Then our graph hits again over here at like -1.21 or something, and that has a multiplicity of 1. It goes straight through. So even though we only hit the x-axis twice total on the negative side, we do have 3 negative real roots because this one occurs twice, multiplicity 2, and this one occurs once. So we have 1, 2, 3 negative real roots, just like Descartes' rule of signs said that we do. In our second example, we want to again find the possible number of both positive and negative real zeros using Descartes' rule of signs. the first thing that we need to do is count the sign changes in f of x to find the possible number of positive real zeros. I rewrote out f of x, and now we need to count how many sign changes we have. Remember, a sign change means that going from term to term, from left to right, we either go from positive to negative or negative to positive, a literal sign change. Our first term's positive, and then we go to a negative term. That counts as one sign change. Then we go from a negative term, negative 3x to the fourth, to a positive. That's another sign change. Then we go from a positive term to a negative term. Then a negative term to a positive term. So we actually have 4 sign changes. So capital P is 4. And then we can also go down by a multiple of 2. So the number of positive real zeros can either be 4, it can be 2, or it can be 0. So we either have 0, 2, or 4 positive real roots. It's going to depend. Next, we want to find the number of negative real zeros. In order to do this, we need to find f of negative x and then count the sign changes. In the previous example, I explained this more in depth, so if you need a more in-depth explanation of how to find f of negative x, take a look at example 1. But for this example, I'm just going to say if we have an odd exponent, that means that the sign changes. If you have an even exponent, the sign is not going to change at all for that term. Because when we plug in negative x and raise it to an even power, it doesn't affect anything. But when we raise it to an odd power, it does. So our first term has an odd power, it's going to affect the sign and it's going to go to a negative. The second term already was negative, so it's going to stay the same because it's an even power. The next term had an odd power, so it's going to change signs. The next term has an even power, so it's going to stay what it was. And the last term is unaffected because there's no x in it. Now we need to count the number of sign changes. We don't have any until we go from negative 8x squared to positive 3. That means n is 1, or subtracting by a multiple of 2, which we can't do. We would be less than 0 if we did that. So there's definitely 1 negative real root. The fundamental theorem of algebra tells us that because this is a quintic polynomial, degree 5, we have 5 total roots. The imaginary roots have to come in pairs, so we either have all 5 real, 3 of them are real and 2 of them are imaginary, or only 1 of them is real and 4 of them are imaginary. So one of them has to be real, and that has to be the negative one. There doesn't have to be any positive reals. Let's take a look on Desmos and see what the case is. When we look at the graph on Desmos, we can see that we definitely had our 1 negative real root. It was at around like negative half-ish. So that one's definitely had to be there because we had only that possibility. Then remember we found that we could have either 0, 2, or 4 positive reals. And that counts their multiplicities too, total. So we have 1 positive real root here, and we have another positive real root over here. Their multiplicities are both 1 because they just slice through the x-axis. They don't bounce back or squiggle through or anything like that. So that's a total of 2 positive reals and 1 negative real. That's 3 of the total 5, because it's a quintic polynomial, it needs to have 5. That means it ended up having 2 imaginary roots. 3 of them were real, and Descartes' rule of signs allowed us to see algebraically how many positive and negative possible real roots there are.